Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.
All right, welcome back, 8th grade. We're in chapter, whoa, dropped my microphone, sorry. We're in chapter 6 now. We're going to be talking about monomials and polynomials here in chapter 6. Chapter 7 then builds off of this, where in 6 we're going to be taking monomials and turning them into polynomials. Chapter 7 is going to be the opposite way, and we're going to take polynomials and turn them back into monomials. Okay? So, first thing we have here are 3 different techniques when it comes to multiplying monomials. If you understand these 3 techniques, the rest of chapter 6 will be very, very easy for you. If you don't pay attention to these and you don't really understand them, it's going to be much more difficult. Okay? All the more complex things we do through the rest of this chapter stem off of these 3 techniques and the 3 techniques that we're also going to see in section 2 for dividing monomials. Okay? So, the first thing, when we're multiplying bases, all right, this first thing we're going to multiply bases. Remember, bases are your variables, x, y, w, z, whatever the variable is, that's your base. When we multiply those, we need to add the exponents, okay? So, we have 5x to the 7th times x to the 6th. When I multiply those, I'm going to take and multiply the coefficients first. So I have a 5 and a 1, that becomes 5. And I'm going to multiply my bases, x to the 7th, x to the 6th. When I multiply bases, I add exponents, so I get 5x to the 13th. And that's it. Okay? Simple enough. When you're multiplying the bases, you add the exponents. Part B. Second thing we need to know, to raise a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. Okay? Power to a power means we're multiplying the exponents. If you see here, I have my power, x to the 4th, raised to another power. So x to the 4th to the 3rd is the way that that's read. And what that means is I have x to the 4th times x to the 4th times x to the 4th. And I already said in part A, when you multiply bases, you add the exponents. So you can see that's where we get the multiplication from. Okay, so this just becomes x to the 12th. 3 times 4 is 12. All right. And the last technique that we need to raise a product to a power. All right, we need to distribute the exponent. So I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to distribute to each of those letters and numbers. Okay, now it does not become -2 times 3. That's the biggest mistake people are going to make. It becomes -2 to the 3rd, then it becomes x to the 3rd, then it becomes y to the 3rd. Okay? We can simplify this because we know that -2 to the 3rd is -2 times -2 times -2, which equals -8. So my final answer, -8 x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. Okay? Make sense? Good. Part 2 here. We're going to use this information to simplify monomials. Okay? So in order to simplify each monomial, you have to have 3 requirements for it to be in simplest form. First thing is that each variable appears exactly once. Okay? There's only one x. There's only one y, only one w. Okay? Second thing is that there are no powers to a power. You get rid of that. You use part B and part C to get rid of any exponents that are outside of parentheses. Part 3 is that all numerical fractions are simplified. So if you end up with a 6/4 somewhere or somehow, make sure you simplify that down to 3/2. Okay? So let's try simplifying a few on the back, and we'll call it a day. Example 1, ab to the 4th and ab squared are being multiplied. So I need to take my a and my a. So that is a to the 1st times a to the 1st, which gives me a squared. Multiply bases, add exponents. Then I'm going to take b to the 4th and b to the 2nd, multiply them, and get b to the 6th. Multiplying bases, I add the exponents. So right there I can look. I have no numerical fractions. A only shows up once, B only shows up once, and I have no parentheses. So that is simplest form, a squared b to the 6th. All I did was I added the exponents. Okay? Example number 2. Here we can see that we have a variable outside the parentheses, so we need to distribute this to all 3 terms. So we end up with 7 to the 3rd power. We end up with x to the 3rd to the 3rd power. And we end up with y to the 6th to the 3rd power. All right? So now we can go through and simplify. 7 to the 3rd comes out to be 343. X to the 3rd to the 3rd, we have a power to a power, so I multiply, which becomes x to the 9th. And y to the 6th to the 3rd, again, is a power to a power, so we have y to the 18th. All right, so let's check our requirements. X and y only show up once. I got rid of all parentheses, so there's no powers to a power. And I don't have any fractions, so that is a simplified monomial. Okay, and let's try the last one. Example 3, 2x squared y to the 3rd power times 3x cubed y to the 4th power. So just like the last example, I have these parentheses out here. I need to distribute, and I get 2 to the 3rd power, x squared to the 3rd power, and y cubed to the 3rd power. Then I also get all of that times my second part, which is 3 to the 4th power, x to the 3rd to the 4th power, and y to the 4th power. Okay, I'll give you a second to write all that out, because now we need to go through and simplify this, because right now it's just a big mess. Okay, so let's start with the left side here. I have 2 to the 3rd power. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times x squared to the 3rd power. Power to a power means I multiply, so I have x to the 6th. Same thing here, a power to a power means I have y to the 9th. There's my first set of parentheses. Now let's simplify this second set of parentheses. 3 to the 4th power, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. Here I have a power to a power, so I multiply, which gives me x to the 12th. And the last one, the y, I just have y to the 4th. There's nothing else to add on. Now we need to multiply our like terms. So 8 times 81. 8 times 81 is 648. the x's, x to the 6th, x to the 12th. I'm multiplying the bases. So that means I add my exponents to get x to the 18th. And the last thing, the y's. We have y to the 9th and y to the 4th. Again, I'm multiplying exponents, so I add, or multiplying bases. So I add my exponents to get y to the 13th. All right? So that's section 1, multiplying monomials. Section 2, dividing monomials, is along the same path. So make sure you understand these 3 principles of how to multiply bases, how to take a power to a power, and how to take a product to a power. Okay? If you understand those, the rest of section 6 should be pretty simple. So good luck, and we'll see you in class. Bye.